Dr. Jonathan Tripp is in studio with us this morning from Tripp Family Medicine, and he's getting some ideas in his head as we. It's like it's obvious that you've got what you call an active mind.
Oh my goodness. In fact, it is. There's always ideas, and that's fun. Even if I'm tired, I'm usually thinking, what next is on the list? Not just because there's a list, but what else is there to improve upon? So today we're talking about kind of getting past the aches and pains that stop our progress.
Timely too, because a lot of people have just on those resolutions started to hit the gym again.
Yeah. Well, and there's lots of us that carry around kind of some chronic pain. That a shoulder or an ankle or a knee, things that are kind of chronically there. And the thing I want to start and begin and end with is kind of a statement that it's really a move it or lose it attitude. Studies show us that people that have bad arthritis, the ones that actually do things in spite of the arthritis, have less pain. So that fits, but there's a feeling I have, and I think it's pretty true. Our bodies are meant to recover. And so when I say you can recover, almost always, given if there's catastrophic damage to part of your body, it doesn't maybe have the ability to totally recover. But for most of us, a tendonitis or even some arthritis, some weakness, those are things that we can overcome. Even lack of balance, those are things that people say, well, this is just me getting older. And I don't care if they're 30 or they're 80, they use that same statement. Well, I'm just getting older. I have to just let it go or deal with it. And my response is, live in a little bit of denial. Pretend you're not getting older and just say, hey, I need to recover. And it almost doesn't matter the age, but it may take longer at an older age. But yet, my real belief and what I've witnessed with others is those that are willing to go after this recover and do much better and live higher quality of life. So that's really what we're talking about is how to have higher quality of life and maybe quantity, but for sure uh, being able to do more really contributes to how happy you are and the quality of your life. So I've got some ideas on what do we do to get past these aches and pains that are
In other words, yeah,
stopping us.
don't start out with a lot of impact, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That would be number one. Let's not beat ourselves up. Um, and so, if you do things that require a lot of jumping or pounding, like running or things like that, that's not going to be great. So, we're going to talk about things that increase your range of motion. In fact, the number one, I'd start with, I'd say either partial weight bearing or no weight bearing. And let me give you some examples of this. If you have, let's say, knee or ankle pain or foot pain, just some stretching of the calf muscles and kind of doing calf raises slowly up and down as you hang on to the railing of your stairs, and just at the edge of the stairs, allowing the heel to drop down below the stair a little bit while you're standing on the forefoot. That's a great beginning, but I think of things that you wouldn't really think of as an exercise, and that is if you feel stiff turning side to side, get a hold of a broomstick and just kind of hold that in your hands out, kind of stretched out in front of you, and turn that broomstick to the right and to the left, kind of slowly, and see if you can extend how far you turn to the right and the left. Um, this is a great, just having that stick in your hand seems to change how your body can move.
Well, that stair exercise. When I had a cast removed after a fibula healed after I broke it, I had the cast removed. Part of the rehab was in the morning, uh, putting my toes up on a step and working it back and forth, and then putting the heel on a step, and then putting the foot down and up and down and up and down from the toes, doing it both directions.
People will often say, "Well, I don't know what to do," and I'm saying, try wiggling it, try moving it. With an ankle sprain, we often the very first thing we tell them to do is, while you're sitting, draw the ABCs with your toes. And people say, "Well, do I use capital letters or do I use small case?" And the answer is, I don't care. You know, just do it, and that range of motion will improve how the ankle functions. And then we move from there to other exercises that make the ankle kind of twist and turn while you're on your feet. Um, One of the most sophisticated things that you can see often at a gym or a physical therapy place is what looks like a half or a third of an inflated ball that sits on a disc or on a tablet of like wood, and that ball is to stand on and forces your ankle, your leg, your knee, your hip, your low back to support you because it throws you a little bit off balance. And so just standing on that alone is an exercise. And so I'm not saying everybody has to go out and buy one of these, but w- what I do want to use is what's around us. You know, do we have a little bit of an incline in our house? Do we have stairs? You know, do we have a broomstick? Can we do things that are right at home and begin the process of getting better? The answer is yes. So we'll talk more.
I want to mention Dr. Jonathan Tripp is in studio with us until 9 o'clock this morning. We're at 15 right now. It's 20 minutes from 10 o'clock. And you're listening to Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com. Joining us in studio, Dr. Jonathan Tripp from Tripp Family Medicine in Twin Falls. It's 14 right now. That will go in the other direction. We promise this is not the eastern United States this week. Uh, wanted to wanted to point out too as well that Dr. Tripp and his staff are still looking for new patients, and often as a patient, they can often is not every time, but often they can see you on the very same day if you call with a serious medical issue in the morning. We should point out too as well there are a number of ways to reach your office.
Yeah, and you can reach us. Probably the easiest is our phone call. So it's area code 208 933 4400. That's 933 4400. And that's the easiest, especially if you want an appointment. But you can reach us on our webpage at tripfamilymedicine.com, and you can learn a lot of information on that webpage, even things like family that we're still looking for donations for a scholarship fund for five small children on a tragic accident that happened about a month before Christmas. A family that lost their father. Simply, he was doing his mechanical work and had farm equipment fall and crush him. And so, you know, cute little kids had a blast interacting with a 6 year old little girl that, you know, I think could be my, you know, next favorite patient in the world. So she's, you know, there's lots of things that we do and you can see on our webpage. But you can learn a lot about our providers, and we have a new provider a little almost 2 months ago now is Lauren Bostrom, and Lauren is a great asset and addition to our practice. You know, she's very nice and very smart. And so we're going to have her on the radio show next week, and she doesn't even know it yet.
Yeah, she's just been volunteered.
That's right.
We were talking during the break, and you had mentioned brooms, and I said it's similar to what, of course, and you lived in Detroit for many, many years, back when the Red Wings were actually good. But hockey
Yeah.
players, when they go out and warm up on the ice, they take a stick and they hold it in their hands and they rock back and forth, and then they bend over at the waist and they continue to rock to really loosen up, I think, the muscles in the rib cage and the waist and the like.
Yeah, and I'd like to encourage that. This is my broomstick idea. And I used a broomstick because I thought, well, what's handy around the house? Um, and so if you take that stick and are turning right and left, and just do this mildly, and you try to stretch a little bit each way, a little bit farther as you go. You know, you're doing this, you know, 5 or 10 times. This is not a 20-minute exercise. But if you do this morning and night, what you're going to find is turning around and grabbing things or looking over your shoulder when you're driving in the car. It's going to come a lot easier, and it's going to be without the strain that maybe you're feeling right now or the stiffness that's there. And then let's extend that as you're holding that broomstick out in front of you, and you will put your feet out to each side, so in a mild straddle, and then reach that broomstick so you're touching one end to the ground by your right foot, and then the other side, lean over to the other side and touch it to the left foot. You'll find if you do this morning and night in a week, you'll find out your straddle is much wider, your turning right and left is much better, and your overall body core range of motion is improving quickly without anything that's a threat. And so this is kind of what I'm getting after with things that we can do at home. Um, if you find something that you find difficult to do, let's say you have to get underneath a chair to reach something that's fallen down, and you find that range of motion, practice it. You know, make that your new exercise for the next few days to reach down and repeat that motion, because then it will become easier. Because the longer we sit, the less we do, and the less range of motion we get. And now you want to reverse that. So let me kind of come back to the details here. The the biggest thing I can tell people with severe or pain, whether it's low back pain, knee, hip, shoulder, go get in a swimming pool. We have two here in town. One's our city pool, and one is belongs to the YMCA. Those are the ones I know mostly. I think Gold's Gym has a pool. Maybe there's others, but the bottom line is a non-weight bearing or basically weightless range of motion. And it doesn't have to be that you're, doing laps, but any kind of swimming motion in the water will allow the muscles around those joints to loosen up while they move, and it will not hurt you.
One of our listeners posted a photograph yesterday at Facebook. She had been in the pool and was pointing out, too, as well, that it seems to get easier for her the more laps she swims, as if she's loosening up, each time she goes from one end of the pool to the other.
I would agree with that once you've practiced swimming laps for a little bit. But my experience is that first day, I feel like I'm sinking every stroke. So I want to encourage you to keep trying. But what we're really looking for is as you do those strokes or walking through the pool, wading through the pool, does your knee feel better? Does your shoulder feel better? And the answer will be it does. It actually loosens up. And then as you get out of the pool, you'll find that that day is a better day for your whole range of motion. So swimming pools are a big deal.
We were talking about ice hockey a little earlier. Speaking of ice, maybe there's another use for it other than just skating on it.
Yeah, in fact, this is old medicine and still the best. We use all kinds of things to help with joint pain, tendon pain, including therapies and but therapies like in injections, in particular steroids are probably the most common, and or there's anti-inflammatories that we take orally or by injection, and still the best anti-inflammatory is ice, because if you can touch where it hurts, that's where you put the ice, and you leave it there till you feel like the bones are cold, and that ache in the bones actually is the key to saying this ache is now promoting dis or anti-inflammation so that the tendons, the muscles, the soft tissues can have a chance to recover. So think of like a goose egg on your head. If you hit your head, remember in the old days your mom would put, an ice cube on top of that or put pressure on it. You're reducing that swelling even if you can't see it in your elbow with your tendon with your tennis elbow. But you do the ice on a regular basis, maybe twice a day, especially at the end of your day or end of whatever you're working that makes that sore, you will shut down the inflammation and you'll avoid having to see me for a steroid injection or going to physical therapy.
I see pictures of pitchers sometimes in the dugout in between innings, icing up their arms.
Yeah. Yeah, in between innings, or especially if you have a professional pitcher, you can guarantee that they're icing their whole shoulder and arm every game, every practice at the end. So we use the term, think of a pro ball player of any kind. They are icing after the game and they're warming up before the game. So those are some key components. Before you play, you want to warm up. And that warm up, whether it's work or play, can be everything from kind of rubbing on it and trying to warm it up that way. Some stretches, and I'm not talking severe, just mild stretches, what they call dynamic warm ups, means you're moving. You're not just pushing hard to stretch your leg so far that you pull your hamstring. So, rubbing it, actual putting heat on it, whether that's hot, warm water or a heating pad, anything that will get that area loosened up, bring circulation, will make it better for the actual exercise. But as soon as you're done, you want to stop the increased influx of circulation so that you don't promote more swelling.
So there's a use for heat, there's a use for cold, but you don't want to mix them.
Well, you can mix them. People will often go to their doctor and they'll say, well, use heat and ice. Well, what order do I use those in and when is the best time? My experience is you use the heat to get yourself going so that you don't injure it further. And so rubbing that, warming it, that'll help you. But ice is all about shutting out the inflammation that you may have created by the exercise. So if you want to keep progressing, you want to, like these pro ball players, you want to ice down afterwards. So heat up before, ice down after. That's probably the best. Some other things we can use. Massage, especially some deep tissue therapy. If you have a particular joint that's giving you trouble, you know, somebody you know or somebody you're paying, massage will go a long ways to pushing you forward quickly. And so, all the massage therapists out there need to, go to our Facebook page and at least like me for bringing them up today.
I wanted to point out, too, as well, if someone has a question or comment this morning, they can reach Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine here on News Radio 1310 KLIX by calling us at 208 736 0300. 208 736 0300. We're 10 minutes from 9 o'clock, and we're at 16. Dr. Jonathan Tripp in studio with Bill Colley this morning. A couple of other things to note about all of this is that there happens to be a lot of people out there who they go to the gym perhaps and they start doing it. And first of all, the soreness can turn them off. But let's say they do work through it. But then they feel a month down the road that it's not really working for them. And I think a lot of people just simply walk away. They don't think they're noticing a difference and they quit.
You're talking about the improvement in the soreness or the not noticing a difference in their range of motion and their
Range of
strength?
motion and strength and the like. Yeah.
Okay. That's a great question because, what I find is they get into a routine of doing the same exercises, the same weights, the same whatever, and they really aren't progressing much. If you are looking for, weightlifting records, you got to do different, you got to do more. That's not what most people are looking for. Most want to be stronger, better range of motion, less pain, and that requires kind of changing up your routine.
When I got out of high school a long time ago, I had stopped riding a bicycle. In college, I walked everywhere. And then when I got a job, I had to drive everywhere, back and forth to work. In 2007, I bought a bicycle at a secondhand store and I started riding it in my neighborhood.
And the second day, you were super sore.
And it continued for about 3 weeks. In fact, I had a soreness just above my knees. And it was so bad that it was difficult standing up and sitting down. And I talked to a chiropractor, and the only thing he told me was, "Well, you're not 18 any longer, like you were the last time you rode a bike." I almost gave it up. But what happened was, within a few more days, after about 3 weeks, that soreness went away. But you have to almost wait it out and realize it's going to be there. But if you wait long enough, it should subside, right?
Most of the time, because that's our body's response. It's trying to heal, it's trying to recover in spite of the new push, the new exercise. I would encourage people that if they're not really progressing, they're feeling pain persisting or continuing, let's get it checked out. Let's come see us. Let us talk to you about what might be the dynamic that is changing that. And sometimes it's just a matter of you need a few days rest. The favorite thing is I'm on my routine. I want to keep going. I'm running or I'm lifting weights. I don't want to miss a day. And the answer is, well, sometimes we got to take a day off or two and let that recover. But particularly with joints, let's talk before you push it to where you're actually causing yourself trouble. So, in the first week or two, if you're not doing high impact and high weights, you're probably going to be a little sore, but you'll recover.
You have a note today called resistance bands, stretching and strengthening without threat. It almost sounds to me like same idea, the old isometric exercises.
In a lot of ways, it is. The resistance bands put uh, weight or resistance against what you're doing. And this is great, especially for shoulders or knees, that it has some pull against you, but it doesn't have, if especially with heavier free weights, if you have a muscle that struggles or weakens and you're on your last rep and it gives out, you can actually do further damage to that joint because of the free weights falling, gravity. The resistance band has that to some degree, but much less, and it has less weight as you let go of it, whereas the free weight actually gains in its momentum. So especially shoulders, like I said, knees, hips, these are things you can buy and you just use. You hook them up to your where your door hinge is, and you can use them in your own home, and they have different levels of strength. And I'd just say start light and move your way up. But this is a very safe way and rarely gives a lot of pain, where free weights to begin with often make you really sore. So I like resistance bands for a lot of reasons. They improve your range of motion and they rarely cause you any troubles.
We have a caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine.
Yes, sir. I had a couple of questions, actually. The first one being along this topic, the use of icy hot or Bengay, how is that helpful or hurtful insofar as relieving muscle pain? And my second question is way off topic, and that my wife's got me hooked on the show Grey's Anatomy. I was wondering how accurate are some of these medical drama shows, because it seems like the things they do are completely miraculous. I was wondering if there's any accuracy to the medical side of these shows.
All right. Let me answer the Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy is a lot of fun. It is a soap opera and does have quite a bit of medical accuracy. But you're right. They're not very real life situations. They do. Um, it's funny because I've done emergency room work, and Grey's Anatomy, a big part of that is the emergency room. And we do have beautiful miracles and a lot of efforts, but we have a lot of failures that I don't see too much on Grey's Anatomy. So it's it is dramatization, but they use frequently accurate terms, and they're trying to be true to form. So the producers put quite a bit into that effort. But to your Icy Hot and Ben Gay, there's quite a few products that are like these, and they feel cold, but the warning is they actually are acting like heat. And so people will often, put the Icy Hot or the Bengay on after a long day of something, or after, an exercise, and it feels cooling, but it actually is bringing more circulation to that area. And so it feels looser, but it actually has increased your swelling at that time. So icy hot or Bengay would be my choice to use before exercise rather than after. After, I'd stick with the ice because, you know, they kind of fool you because of the menthol and eucalyptus or other things that are in them. But if you can think of icy hot as mostly hot, then you understand it's better to use beforehand to loosen things up.
Want to thank him for the call, and a lot of people, I'm sure, watch these shows. It's just like the legal shows too, as well. And you wonder how much of it is. Some of them have become. I think they've strived over the last several years to become more accurate
They
than they used
have.
to be.
Yeah, there's one out that's real popular right now called The Good Doctor, who uses a doctor who has a condition that's on what's called the autism spectrum. We used to call it Asperger's. And so very black and white, not a lot of great social skills, but I think that's what makes it even more entertaining to see how you have a very intelligent person that really doesn't have all the social clues, and it makes it kind of awkward and funny. And so that's one that I'm I'm pretty sure they're using accurate information, but the story really isn't about the medicine. So
And Ben Casey and Marcus Welby may have been very entertaining, but don't take your medical advice from them.
yeah. It's that was the joke that I continue to use, and my father said, is I play a doctor on TV. You know, I,
Yes.
I play a doctor on the radio, but something about my training says I actually am a doctor, so it's a
We
little better.
we have to wrap up. We've got to pick this up, I think, again at some point.
Well, let's see. If you struggle with the home exercise and the pain continues, come see us. We can talk about a variety of treatments, including some injections, and we've got PRP and stem cell injections that are on the horizon for our office coming up soon. And then if we can't get you fixed up, then we'll talk to a surgeon. So a surgical consultation. But really, the conclusion is let's get to moving it. Move it, don't lose it, and you can recover almost always.
Want to thank Dr. Tripp for dropping in today, and we'll talk to him again soon.
Because life,
Too short not to feel good.
yeah, it's right.
And we've got Pastor Paul Thompson on the way following news at 9 o'clock this morning.